Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Safer Gambling Week 2024. I'm really happy to be here one more year. And first of all, my name is Pedro Romero. I'm the head of Safer Gambling Partnerships at BetBlocker, and I'm also a Safer Gambling consultant and researcher. First of all, I would like to do a little shameless plug about BetBlocker, you know, a charity that helps people struggling with problematic gambling worldwide. And we're the only completely free and completely anonymous software out there. So if you can support us in any way, please give us a hand. So I would like to introduce my colleagues and panelists today. Uh, Shimon, Duncan, Kate, and Katie. Uh, Please, I would love if you could do a little introduction about yourself. Shimon?
Okay, I'm gonna start. Thank you very much, Pedro, for the introduction and for moderating this panel. I'm so glad to be here. I think it's going to be a wonderful discussion. So I work for Casino Guru. Casino Guru is running the most comprehensive and up-to-date database of online casinos. We are running an affiliate business on that. The idea for having this kind of a database is to provide information rather than promote casinos, and also to have the source of information connected with any historic actions of these brands, so we could be able to uh, provide data which is reliable, and then the players are able to choose. On the top of it, we are having a couple of projects focused on social responsibility, which I am leading, namely the Global Self-Exclusion Initiative. That might be the reason why I'm part of this panel. And also we are running a Casino Guru Academy, which offers free educational courses, mainly for the operators, in order to share best practices among the online gambling industry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shimon. Katie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Reynolds-Jones, and I'm Chief Marketing Officer here at GamStop Group. We are operate the national online self-exclusion scheme for the UK, and have been doing so since 2018, April 2018. We now also run the Moses scheme, which is the land-based bookie scheme. And we also provide tech support for Gam Protect, which is the UK's way of looking at a single customer view for operators. I've been working here for almost 7 years on the GamStop project, which is the self-exclusion scheme. We have currently 521,000 people registered with the scheme in the UK. We hit 500,000 back in September. We're registering about 300 people, new people every single day. So that's a significant proportion of the UK population. It's 16 plus, so anybody over the age of 16 can register for free with GamStop. And for those of you not aware of what self-exclusion schemes do, we match data against the data that is provided when somebody registers for a gambling operator. So they are unable to access their account or log into new accounts here in the UK of licensed, regulated remote operators. So really excited to be part of this discussion. It's very important to us in the UK. We feel very strongly that we work in collaboration with other providers of software and also banks. I think that's enough for now, Pedro, hopefully.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Katie. Kate, would you like to do a little intro about yourself?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here as well. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Kate Graham. I work for Monzo. I'm the Vulnerability and Accessibility Process Manager. I've been at Monzo for almost 5.5 years, and really proud to work for a company that cares so much. to support customers with self-exclusion. Monzo was or did launch the UK's first friction-based gambling bot back in 2018, and when I joined in 2019, I've been able to keep up momentum around supporting customers and introducing more controls for them to support their gambling spends alongside other proactive support, such as working with the likes of Katie at GamStop and providing that kind of signposting and that external support. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. And last but not least, Duncan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Pedro. I'm Duncan Garvie. I founded the charity BetBlocker. We provide blocking software, so it's an app that you can install on your device that will restrict you from accessing gambling services. We are the only provider of free blocking software. It is accessible anonymously. We have tens of thousands of people connected to our servers every day. We are available in, actually, I was just going to say 8 languages, but that changed yesterday. It's now up to 11 languages. And alongside running BetBlocker, I am also the head of ADR services for CasinoReviews.com. We manage complaints between consumers and online gambling firms, acting in an official capacity, managing disputes for a couple of regulators.
Excellent. So we got all the intros. So now let's crack on with the panel questions. It is Safer Gambling Week, and innovation, is really important in our area. I would like to ask you, each of you, what new things, you have got released during 2024. Šimon, would you like to give us a bit of a overview of what you have been doing at Casino Guru?
Gladly, thank you. So everything is circling around the global self-exclusion initiative for me when it comes to self-exclusion. We have started the projects a couple of years ago already, but I think the most recent updates for the past year is that we are currently pivoting from the original idea and original strategy of looking into self-regulation and voluntarily joining of the operators in a system which would be running independently, because after the years of having conversation, we see that there is not that big of an incentive for that kind of step. I think it is because it's connected with a lot of challenges, potentially with a lot of issues. You are dealing with privacy issues, you are dealing with data sharing issues, but also with issues of false negatives and false positives. So we are turning currently in this journey, and we are starting looking into the offshore jurisdiction and expanding our activities over there. Because in reality, you don't really need a global system. You need a system which is going to cover the jurisdictions or the operators which are accepting players from different countries. So if we will be able to cover most of the offshore jurisdiction, then it will more or less serve as a global system. But I think it might be even a more difficult task to do, but as part of the initiative, as it always has been a campaign and it was a journey, it was always about looking for the next possible thing that is going to generate some benefit, is going to generate some value, and then see if that would work. And if not, to move to something else that reasonably makes sense. And this currently sees as the most reasonable way how to go forward with it. So I'm going to spend next year talking with people and looking for a solution how something like that could work. There are 2 more projects which are connected with the self-exclusion initiative, which has gained some progression in the past year. The one is the self-exclusion assistance tool, which is basically I think it's the best way how to put it is the tool, which help players to self-exclude from their accounts, which they already created. It is providing a guidance. It is providing the education about how self-exclusion works, so people are able to sort out and make a list of casinos they have accounts with, and they are able to follow these recommendations. They are able to have a text generated, so they need to think about what should be included in their request for self-exclusion. And the tool is also going to give them an information what possible ways of self-exclusion are available in those particular operators, either by setting in an account or email or chat with the customer support. And the last but not least is the self-exclusion standards, which we were doing with the City University of London and with Dr. Margaret Karen, who is leading the project. And this one particularly is aimed at developing recommendations for effective online self-exclusion. This is aimed mainly for the single operator self-exclusion, as it still has its place for many players in the online gambling industry. And we are currently almost at the end. We are finishing the broader consultations, and we will be able to have the final recommendations and the final paper early next year.
Fantastic. A lot of exciting things you have been doing in 2024. Katie, what about GamStop? Because I have heard, the new project, single point of view for. So could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah. So, well, firstly, we were this time, about July up until July 23. National Online Self-Exclusion Scheme Limited. We then became GamStop Group, the GamStop Group, because we have a couple of extra sort of initiatives in place. So it's technically not quite 12 months ago, but two things which I've slightly mentioned in my intro. Firstly, we took on what in this country is called the multi-operator self-exclusion scheme, which is the land-based scheme that was set up around about the same time as GamStop, a couple of years or so before, which is the scheme which enables people to exclude themselves from bookmakers in the UK, a multiple of them, not just one, in their local vicinity, and then they don't need to go into that bookmaker to do that. They can call a telephone number and get themselves blocked that way. We took that on middle of last year, and we're working on ways of improving it alongside the things that are going on that are out of our control. So we're looking at ways in which it can work a little better for people, making sure that it's as good as it can be in its current format. So there's loads of background work going on in that area. We do know it's not look, compared to GamStop, which, as I said earlier, has 520,000 people registered. The UK multi-operator self-exclusion scheme for land-based, it's a bit of a mouthful. Some people call it Moses. I don't think that reflects what it is, so I tried to use the long name. We've got about 12,000 people registered, so it is a much smaller scheme. But for those in that zone, it's really important. So we've done some work on that.
If I may ask, why do you think the big difference? Because you got around 500,000, in online, and then retail, it's around 12,000. Moses, it's not working.
Yeah, the two work slightly differently for a start. So and have always done. So whereas GamStop, people stay on until and unless they reach their minimum period, and then they can choose to come off. And we've currently got 458,000 people currently excluding. So almost, let's say, 50,000 who have removed themselves from the scheme. With the Moses scheme, people automatically actually do fall off come off at the end of their period, because they have to resubmit photograph. It's working on photo identity. So there is a constant up and down of it. But also, I think we all understand that it is at the remote level or remote gambling where people are choosing self-exclusion probably a little bit, well, obviously a lot more in their numbers in the UK anyway than they are for the retail side of things. So I think that's the answer to your question, really, Pedro. Briefly on GamProtect, it's a similar piece of tech that is for GamStop. So we are providing the service to the GamProtect organization it's run by again UK operators. It's to try to help find the solution whereby operators can share carefully information amongst themselves about people who have a sort of a marker for harm that would really mean that they shouldn't be gambling with that operator, and they can share that information very securely, very safely with other operators that are part of the the GamProtect scheme. And that has been running now for a pilot for the last couple of years, and is now in flow and will be hopefully rolled out to more operators as we go into 2024. Just briefly on GamStop itself, which is our sort of core product, if you like, or our core service. And we had our evaluation, which I'll probably talk a bit more about as we go through the session this year, which is an independent evaluation carried out by Ipsos. And so we've had some really interesting insight, which for me as a marketeer is absolutely, that's how we then improve things. One of the things that we're doing as a result of both the recommendations in this evaluation and the previous one is try to tackle the issue of a lifetime ban, which is what people in the UK describe as what they're wanting. Now, of course, when you're handling data, that's quite problematic or challenging, because a lifetime ban necessarily means that if the data isn't kept up to date, it would potentially not work as well in 15, 20 years as it does now. So we're working on extending the 5-year exclusion we have in place to become an auto renewal exclusion, which will automatically renew each time with updated data. So it enables the data to remain current, but people to have the peace of mind that they are protected for a longer period of time than they currently perceive, which is 5 years. Actually, it doesn't come off, so they would need to make a decision to take it off if they wanted to. So that should go live at the end of this year, fingers crossed, and that's really an important next step for us.
Fantastic, extremely interesting. Just a quick question: How does it work? For example, so imagine in the sort of single point of view, how would it work? So imagine that I disclose that I'm suffering from serious mental health problem. How does it work?
Yeah, look,
the different
because we are just a tech provider for GamProtect, I can't really talk on behalf of GamProtect Limited. That's for the GamProtect scheme, but it is a marker that has been agreed, and that is at the level of operator. So it would be something that came into an operator or somebody that came to the operator's attention, and that would then trigger a marker of harm put on, and then that would enable them to share and prevent that person, if it's the right marker of harm and carefully done, with the other operators that are in the scheme. And so that's how it operates at the moment.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Kate, what do you have? Any sort of developments? At Monzo, have you delivered during 2024 to keep protecting customers from gambling related harm?
Sure. I'll cheat just like Katie did. It's kind of towards the end of last year, but through into 2024, we developed our self-serve gambling block at the end of last year, August 2023. And the reason that we did that, as I said earlier, we implemented the UK's first friction-based gambling block in 2018. And that was a kind of a human-led block. And that meant that if our customers wanted to remove their block, they would have to speak to someone. And of course, as Monzo grew, that started to become a problem for some customers that maybe didn't want to engage or just wanted that one-off gambling. So last year we did a huge project in partnership with GamCare, with behavioural insights, and with customers with lived experience. And we were faced with some problems, which were, the first one was customers wanted more control. They didn't always want to speak to someone to remove their block. People also wanted longer cooldowns. So the general cooldown period is 48 hours. As Katie's saying, there's people that want a lifetime ban. So that 48 hours just isn't enough and wasn't enough for some people. But the 48 hours actually should be longer for some people. So customers were telling us that they wanted longer cooldown periods. They wanted more control. So we implemented a self-serve gambling block, and we did 3 key things with this. The first one was cooldowns, and I'm really excited about this because the impact that it's had. Hopefully, I can get to the data at some point here. Cooldowns, our customers can select from 48 hours up to a year. This is all self-serve now as well, so we are really extending and becoming aligned to our friends at GamCare and GamStop for the longer exclusions. We also implemented customer-led friction. And what that means is that customers can implement a personalized message that they type themselves. They set that up whenever, they can change it whenever they like. And that means that when they go to remove the block, actually it's their own personalized message that comes up. And finally, we've not kind of implemented self-serve for everyone, and we've kept that human-led friction for those that want it. And that's a really important thing that I think that banks and any providers that support customers through gambling harm, not everyone will want self-serve, and we have to support that and come up with initiatives.
I mean, I think I think this is a fantastic initiative, particularly for less tech savvy, people. Sometimes it's like maybe older generation that they want to speak with a person and ask for help rather than going through menus, even if the UX is really good. So I think that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, it's been great. Like I said, it's only been a year, and we through our experience with GamCare and customers with lived experience, we didn't want to promote this to our customers. So any uptake has been quite organic. And what we're seeing from that is 40% of customers that have the self-serve block at Monzo have a year-long cooldown. And that's quite powerful data, I think.
Great. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? Because I remember that Monzo was like the sort of first neobank to implement this type of block. Do you do it like a sort of merchant code for gambling? And how do you, for example, with web wallets, can customers say, okay, I also want to block, topping up web wallet, so I cannot, deposit from my bank account to a web wallet and then for gambling site? Is there any possibility?
Yeah, it's important to call out the gambling block is specific to that gambling merchant category code at the moment. So that doesn't mean that we can't add to it, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. That there are ways that customers can tell us that this is a gambling operator. They aren't using that gambling merchant category code, but actually I am gambling there, and we will take action to either add that to our gambling block or offer customers a way that they can self-serve that block through our spending block. Spending block is a separate feature to gambling block, and I don't want to cloud it too much, but it is very powerful. It's a Monzo Labs product, so it's available to all customers, but on a testing basis, and we're hoping to get that over the line very, very soon. It's a merchant-based block, which means that customers can, even if they're not gambling operators or abided by gambling operators, they can block those merchants using that.
Fantastic, because there's all the types of behavioral addiction, like shopping, and it would be great if you can just, set limits on different sort of merchant. That sounds a really cool idea, Great
Hopefully, yes.
innovations, yeah.
The limits and the kind of the spending block, I think, is an incredibly powerful tool. I'm very excited to bring that out to the world. It is available now. There's no limits in there right now. There are reminder messages. So as we develop that tool, of course, we'll talk more about that and share.
Okay, thank you. Duncan, what have you been up to at BetBlocker for the last 12 months?
It's been a very busy year, Pedro. I mean, I think the first thing I should talk about is the announcement we made yesterday. We have partnered with another charity called Yellow Scarf, who deliver native language therapy and support for Eastern European communities in the UK, and Gamble Aware to translate BetBlocker into Ukrainian, Polish, and Russian. That was launched yesterday. A couple of months ago, September, we launched BetBlocker in Portuguese. I personally feel it's really important to try and translate the support we provide into as many languages as possible. A lot of the people coming to BetBlocker are at a point of crisis in their journey. We've all been there. We all know this, the emotional load of those moments where your stomach's in a knot, your heart's racing, the blood's thumping in your ears. You can't think clearly. If they are then confronted with an app supposed to help them with setup instructions in a language that they're either not confident in or don't speak at all, that is a substantial barrier to accessing support. So it's really important to try and remove that barrier, remove that friction, and make it as easy for people to access in their primary language as possible, which is why I was really, really happy to be able to engage this project and receive some funding via the Improving Outcomes for Minority Communities initiative that Gamble Aware were running. And we had an absolutely amazing partner in Yellow Scarf who really took the content that we needed to translate, which is quite a lot of content, and made sure that their volunteers got that done for us. It was a fantastic project. Alongside that, I mean, a lot of what BetBlocker does to improve the protections that we offer is kind of low-key. It's kind of behind the scenes. It's when an operating platform updates and it opens a loophole or something doesn't work quite as it should, we have to spend time researching how to close that loophole, how to smooth the performance of the app on the device, make sure it's not interfering with anything else. So we do a lot of work around that. We also have another project that is running just a little behind schedule. We had hoped to launch it this week, but we unlike other blocking softwares on the market, we don't just offer the traditional continuous block. We also offer what we call our scheduling feature. This allows people, rather than responding to a crisis, this allows them to act ahead of time. So, for instance, if what you know you're guilty to gambling a little bit too much on a Saturday night after you've had a few beers, you can set the block to switch on every Saturday. If you wanted to make sure that your bills are paid before you play, you could look your payday up and then set the block for a week after payday each month. It's encouraging people to engage. If you're going to gamble responsibly. Know when your periods of vulnerability are and take steps to minimize your risk during those periods. The upgrade we're looking to launch soon is to allow this block to be by hour rather than just by day. So how we see people using this is you can set up a full profile, weekly profile. So for instance, if what you're concerned about is you don't want to be distracted when your kids are home, what you could do is you know they get in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you know they go to bed at 9 o'clock. So Monday to Friday, you could set your block to be between 4 and 9 so that you're making sure you're spending your time with kids. Or if you're finding yourself sitting up too late at night playing, what you can do is you can set the block to switch on at 10 o'clock every night, so you just can't play after that. So yes, that's an exciting development. We're not quite there yet, but that will be coming very soon.
Well, that sounds so very, very exciting. Thank you. Šimon, I wanted to ask you a question, because sometimes affiliates, they've been a bit looked down, in terms of safer gambling. Okay, people go there, you have a lot of links, a lot of potential offers. What can a, responsible affiliate do, to promote a bit of a harm minimization approach, about promoting safer gambling?
Right. Yeah, thank you. So actually, there are many affiliates which are pioneering their work in this area, but because other affiliates, or there are different kind of affiliates, and then you have those which are not respecting the regulation, not respecting the safer gambling principles, and unfortunately, it creates an environment in which everybody is being measured as the worst actor. So that's why I think that a lot of very positive things done by affiliates can be overlooked. So by far, it's not only us doing some work around this. But to get back to your question, it is limited from the position of the affiliates on to influence players in a way that it can be done by the operators, right? Because the affiliates are mainly a doorway for players to end up in some gambling operators. This is fulfilling their main intention. So really the point is how to design and how to create this kind of information to make it resonate with the people. So it will become a natural part of their journey, a natural part of their intention. Because still what I'm convinced they are mostly thinking is that I want to find a place to gamble. I don't really care about responsible gamble and safer gambling stuff because it is not for me. It is for those that are struggling with it. And it's not mine case. So ever since I started working with Casino Guru, I was trying to figure out where and how to create this kind of information to influence the players positively and make this digestible for them so they can really comprehend it. And I think that we are able to make some success in this with our partnership with Mindway AI. We are running it again for this Safer Gambling Week, and that it's wrapped around their risk assessment game, Gamalize, which basically by playing and by making decisions and your reactions to either drawing a card that is losing or either drawing a card that is winning, different kinds of amounts. And based on your behavior as a player, it is going to calculate the risk of your gambling. And thus is going to educate you about what is your gambling style, what you could be sensitive for, and then you would embrace, or the idea is that the player is going to embrace this information and they will be able to implement it in their own gambling. So they wouldn't be just taken away by the gambling itself, but they would have more idea of what is going on with their patterns of behavior. And overall, it's going to educate them about safer gambling, ideally as a normal part of gambling. And we created a couple of widgets on our website, how to make it visible for people to join in, and we are trying to nudging them into direction, right? This should be normal part of your gambling, to be aware of this and to manage it. And then another thing which I didn't really mention when I was talking about updates, we did a collaboration, right? A partnership with BetBlocker, and I think, or not I think, but I know that it is delivering a immediate benefit for players as well, because what a partnership is about, right? To support each other on the areas of these two projects. But as we see on our website, which is dedicated for the Global Self-Exclusion Initiative, there is a contact form on the bottom of it, which was created for people from the industry when they would seek more information about it. But in reality, we are being contacted by players who are desiring to self-exclude on an international level globally. And unfortunately, we weren't able to offer them anything specific. Now it is a different case because now we have the widget for BetBlocker implemented over there. So it can provide them some immediate solution for the issues, because the blocking softwares currently are the only solutions which can create any international sort of blocking. So I think it's quite limited on the player side. Then there is a side with the operators, because as it is in some regulations that operators are obliged to be responsible for their affiliates, so they wouldn't be listed and they wouldn't be doing business with anyone who is breaching the rules. It can work vice versa, in a way that the affiliates can influence the operators in a way that they might educate them about safer gambling stuff. How it works for us, it's mainly rooted in our safety index, and if we are giving a reduced safety index to some casinos, they are naturally unsatisfied with it, so they would seek how they can increase it, and the only way how to increase it is to change something
Let
in their
me
behavior.
let me
It
ask
can
you a
work both
question,
ways.
because that sounds a bit like with cars, like with the end cap stars. Somehow, like, okay, there's people that they want to have a Volvo because you have a family or something. Say, okay, I'd rather drive safe, or an SUV, because they perceive that may be safer. Do you think that this is something that may influence a player to say, okay, I'm going to this operator because it has a higher safety score, or is bonus the
I
main
I
driver?
I think so. I would want that so, to be honest, because I firmly believe that the way forward with decreasing gambling harm is to empowering the person, educating, supporting them. And I think if it will be important in the player's eyes, like I want to gamble with the operator who has a higher standard on player protection, then it's going to be changing the whole narrative of the issues, because then they will be seeking the more safer environment for them, and it will be not that easily to be deceived and to gamble with players that don't have that. And we also want to create sort of like a bottom up push with this. So we are currently working on a project how to have all this information that we have about online casinos connected with self-exclusion, connected with deposit limits, loss limits, other kinds of limits, to have it as a visible part on those operators, so people can check this information and can decide based on that as well. And another important part of this is when you have a database where the operators are able to see themselves next to their competitors, it also creates a push on them. So then they will be able to see that they might not be doing enough in a certain areas, right? We are still talking about the safer gambling. So for some, it might not be that important, but the perspective can change just when you see it next to each other. Like, okay, they are doing better than us. Maybe we should do something with it.
I mean, a little bit like
If
the
I
now defunct safer gambling standard. You may have operators that they want to have it because, okay, this operator have 3 stars. I want to aim to the 3 stars, or whatever. It sounds good. Sorry, Duncan, please.
Yeah, if I could just jump in there with some comments on what Šimon was saying. Yes, firstly, I would agree that some good affiliates doing good work are getting overlooked. Coming from an affiliation background, BetBlocker came from an affiliate project. It was entirely funded by my business, which was an affiliate site before it was broken off and registered as a charity. But yes, there are a lot of bad actors in the sector as well. To what Šimon's saying about the database, Casino Guru are a very, very high profile business with huge traffic. Anytime they post criticism, whether that is constructive or not, the operator is going to feel the effect of that by highlighting security concerns about certain operators, you are creating commercial pressure on them to do better. That's a great modus operandi. But more than any of this, even stepping outside of Casino Guru, when we're talking about affiliates specifically, I think us in the safer gambling space need to try and engage more with affiliates. Look, one of the biggest barriers to genuine responsible gambling, because it's a misnomer. Responsible gambling, the way the public perceive it is that's where you go once you have a problem. When responsible gambling is a thing that you should do so you don't end up with a problem. We need to change that narrative. Now, affiliates, well, it's in the name, they're affiliate marketers. These are people who are experts at marketing and messaging. We need to get these groups on board and help us better communicate the message we're trying to convey, and that is let's if you're going to play safely, stay within your limits. Let's use the tools that are there. Let's put your seatbelt on before you drive the car.
Okay. One quick question for every one of you. I just want for you to ban. What do you think you can do, or we can do, to fight the rise in the black market? Katie, if you have to say something.
Well, Šimon's really interesting about this affiliates, because actually what we're seeing, and I'm talking about the black market sites that are promoting casinos not on GamStop. It's a thing. We know it's a thing. It's a really, really terrible thing, really. They are actually going for vulnerable consumers. And as Šimon said, there's some brilliant affiliates out there doing some brilliant work. But unfortunately, there are also affiliate sites who are actively promoting the black market. And I think it's incumbent on all of us, affiliates, the operators themselves, the legislators, the regulators, everybody needs to get together to say, no, we've had enough. We do not want to see this type of marketing to potentially vulnerable people. We have to accept that it has got to stop. So, we can't do it on our own at GamStop. Yes, we report. We have a brilliant relationship with the Gambling Commission here in the UK, who are getting some real momentum in being able to shut down sites where they can, be able to shut down affiliates or prevent them from promoting these sites where they can. But we need to all work together. We need to remove or try to remove these affiliate sites that are promoting unlicensed, unregulated sites to UK consumers. And we feel very strongly about that at GamStop, because we can see that it is having an impact.
Okay, from your side, what I'm getting is crack down on,
but it's not waiting for the law to change. It's for the responsible affiliate sites to actually also stand up and say, no, we don't want this in our area. We don't want this to happen anymore. It's really tarnishing our good reputation with a reputation of marketing to sell a product that shouldn't be sold to potentially vulnerable people. So I think it's all of us. We all have to do more.
So Šimon, you're ahead of the curve. What about you, Kate? What do you think that it can be done to crack on the black market? Any sort of?
I'd repeat what Katie said, of course. I think from my perspective in a financial industry, raising awareness with our colleagues and making sure that people know about this. It's great for us to sit here and talk about it, and it's horrible that it's on the rise, and we're all very, very passionate about this, but we're still being quite reactive, and we have to come together to create a solution or move forward at least. But in the meantime, we do have a responsibility to raise awareness of this, to train people, for those people, our staff, to understand how they can support customers, how they can block those payments, and speaking about it more, not just on these webinars. I know we're not, but all the time. if you're supporting vulnerable people at all times.
Okay, thank you.
Duncan? I think there are... Look, we're never going to get rid of the black market. That's the brutal truth. We are engaged in an arms race. Every time we put in a new block, a new way of shutting it down, they will try and work out a way around it. There's lots of money to be made. There are vulnerable people to exploit. That's just the nature of it. But we need to try harder. And I completely agree. I think that there are stakeholders who are currently disavowing any responsibility for this that need to be woken up to the reality that it is their responsibility. I would name Google. I'm sorry, these search terms should be monitored and should not be simply shouldn't be allowed. But I think that there's the other side of this is education. Right now, we have a very low level of understanding amongst consumers as to which sites are licensed and which sites are not licensed. We need to undertake a body of work to teach people how to know, how to quickly identify, because it's there, all the information's there. We just need to teach them what to look for. We need to educate our users.
Duncan used to be a math teacher, if I remember correctly. Šimon, from your side, because, for example, okay, we're talking about, bad actors in the affiliate sector, and then the things shift very quickly. I'm sure that, the minute that this is cracked down, people that just going to be a Telegram channel, or whatever, how can we be ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so you're right. It's not only about the Google results and what you find on the SERP. There is an issue with that a newly created site or a site that is not that old and not that proven can appear very high in the SERP results. So SERP results is, when you put in any keyword, it's going to be, the order of the website that you're going to see. So doing stuff that is not completely aligned with what Google is saying, then it might be possible for some websites to get there. So the point is, what I'm trying to make was that it's not only about the results in Google search. It's also about, the Telegram sites is also about social media, so people can become aware about possibilities to gamble outside of their licensed jurisdictions. So I would double down on empowering the individuals, so they would be able to differentiate and they would be able to make their own decision. But also to add to that we also have ones, or that there are players who are deliberately, and then not because of not being on GamStop or self-exclusion, but deliberately looking for their opportunity where to gamble outside of their licensed regime, because they'll feel like they are not getting the same kind of experience. And it is a completely different part of discussion, which is mainly about creating a space or creating a gambling opportunity which is competitive to what is out there. Because if we like it or not, and I think it's one of the biggest hurdles we have with online gambling, people can decide and they can easily go and choose to gamble elsewhere if they feel like they are not getting the kind of experience they wish for.
Okay, thank you, Šimon. We have 10 minutes left. I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions. So one question for Katie and Duncan, taking in consideration the stigma, associated with gambling, and to be in a, safer gambling register, like GamStop, to block yourself, or BetBlocker. What do you do to make sure that you have data that is in a secure way, so it's not hacked by, bad actors?
Do you want me to go first on that one, Duncan, or are you going to jump in?
Go for it, Katie.
I mean, security is our absolute number one priority. We are a tech provision at the end of the day, so we work really, really hard on the connection, the security around our register, which is a big register, and we need to make sure it's very, very safe. So Look, I'm not the technical person here, so I can't go into the full details of what technical steps, but trust me when I say it's the absolute foundation of everything that we do. We have huge amounts of security around our database, and it is hashed into the databases of the operators who are checking against it every time somebody logs in, and every time we do a batch check, which means that they are checking against marketing. So every single time it is absolutely secure, and we would be very, very careful with that database.
Okay, thank you. So it's good to reassure players, because some of them can be apprehensive and say, okay, what happened?
Absolutely,
if I don't know,
100%. Yeah.
a group of North Korean or Chinese or Russian hackers or US hackers get into our database. What about
just one more thing on that. We have our Cyber Security Plus, which we've just renewed, in fact, last week. So we have the stamp of approval that our cybersecurity is absolutely top notch here at GamStop.
You're next, Duncan.
Thanks very much, Pedro. Well, the biggest thing we do to ensure user data is protected is not collect it. It's one of the big advantages of running a charity and not requiring any subscription fees. We don't need users to register. We don't need to know who they are. So there is no registration. We don't ask for people's names. We don't take addresses. We don't take email addresses. We have nothing on the users in our databases. The chances are, if somebody manages to hack into our servers, which could happen. I mean, it could happen to governments. It could happen to banks. It can certainly happen to us. The most that they're going to find is myself and Pedro emailing back and forth about how we're paying for the next conference. The only time we do collect user data is where somebody contacts us for technical support, at which point we do need an email address so that we can respond to them. And we purge those emails periodically to ensure that we don't have this big bank of user data, because we are sensitive to the fact that, the last thing that BetBlocker would ever want is a bad actor, a hacker, to get into our database and for tens of thousands of people who have been looking for support with gambling addiction to end up with their details on the dark web being sold to gambling operators who are unlicensed and targeting vulnerability.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left. So what do you have, a big view of what you have planned for next year? Just a quick round. Katie, what do you have planned for next year? New innovations?
I feel like you're slightly picking on me, Pedro, with I'm joking, of course. Busy year next year. Look, our focus here is to make sure that everybody in the UK knows about GamStop. We have an awareness survey once every year, conducted by YouGov, and what we're trying to make sure is that we destigmatize GamStop to make sure that every single person feels comfortable and confident that if their gambling becomes out of control, they need to put something at this level in place that they know where to come to. That said, I'm probably the only marketing person in the world who is looking for less people next year to interact with their product than this year. We agree. Duncan said something very, very important earlier on, that we should be doing things earlier on in the cycle of a gambler to make sure that actually schemes like GamStop don't need to be there every day getting 300 plus registered, because it's pretty final going on GamStop. You are removing yourself from being able to gamble across all remote sites for a 6-month minimum period. So I would like to see that the rate go down slightly, because I'd like to see better prevention, better services at the end, where we're really seeing a a slowing down of people joining the schemes like GamStop. And that also probably relates to the work we're doing on collaboration with the banks, with blocking software. So we create this really important first step. What do you need to do, put in place that will slow down your, the way you're gambling, your habits, and so that we can then get to a point where they don't need necessarily GamStop in the end. So I'm really looking forward to working more closely with the banks and more closely with blocking software, because hand in hand we do a really great job here in the UK.
You're doing an amazing work. Kate, any sort of innovations that you have in Monzo for 2025 in the pipeline?
Hopefully this leads on from Katie's very, very nicely, because the work that we're already working on, and it'll go into 2025, is a more kind of proactive approach of customers that may be at risk of gambling harm. And we've created a self-serve flow which walks customers through spending controls. So I've spoke through the main ones on this call already. I'm really excited about what that could do and the data that could bring, linking it back to our self-serve gambling blockchain, and continuing that collaboration with everyone here, but also the rest of the industry.
I mean, it's just amazing. I just hope that all the banks follow suit, with the type of innovation that you're doing, because it's something that it can help people in different areas of their life. Duncan, what do you have? I mean, you gave a big view, but 1 minute, what can we expect from the blog for next year?
We've got a lot going on right now. We've got a lot more languages yet to launch, about probably another dozen in the pipeline right now. We are looking to build out an analytics platform at some point next year. I'm hoping to make that available publicly so that everybody can see how people are using BetBlocker. We are we're looking to engage some academic research into the effectiveness of BetBlocker on outcomes for vulnerable people. We're looking to use that, combine the two, to try and allow more universities to access our user base via in-app messaging, so that we can support research into gambling harms. We've got intentions to build out a messaging system so that when people do try to go to a blocked site, when they have an exclusion, they get something positive and reinforcing. And we have several other features relating to the scheduling I was talking about just earlier, that I don't quite want to release yet. So you're just going to have to wait and see.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on your work. Šimon.
So regardless of the player protection information to all our online casinos in our website, there is going to be nothing new. So we'll be working on progressing with this new pivoted strategy for the global self-exclusion, focusing on the offshore jurisdictions. We will be also focused on the development of this self-exclusion assistance tool, because what we need to do with it is to get among the players, get it to the places where people are seeking for support. So people who are giving them this support, or people who are giving them the education, are able to show them, okay, this tool can help you if you need to self-exclude, especially if there are multiple online accounts with different jurisdictions, so you cannot close them all at once. And also we will be releasing the recommendations from the self-exclusion standards project early this year, and then working on increasing the impact of it, because from the beginning this was one of the main goals with the project, not just to research something and to create something, but also make sure that it's going to be impactful in the industry, and it could serve the benefit of every stakeholder to take some inspiration from it.
So fantastic! We finished just in time. So thank you very much to all of you, and the fantastic work that you're doing in your areas. And I hope that in the next year we have a lot of success, and hopefully less people needing using our services. Okay, so thank you very much, and have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.